Well, the world has still gone nutty, buddy, even downright cruddy, buddy. Wish I missed the past, buddy, but there's still Buddycast. No, don't be nutty, go meet a buddy here on Buddycast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and host of Buddycast, Nick Sorensen.
Welcome, buddies, to another episode of everybody's favorite show, Buddycast. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have a very special buddy. I'm very excited about this episode because I feel like I could truly relate to it. I'm excited to see how this episode is going to help everybody out there. We have my buddy, Coach Angela. How you doing, Angela?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Of course. Angela, you're involved in this organization. It's called The Society, an anti-bullying foundation. Could you tell our viewers about that?
Yeah, so I founded the society this past January. We are an anti-bullying foundation. We believe that bullying is both a youth and an adult issue. Adults bully other adults, and adults show youth how to bully. And then we also believe that the way to battle it is twofold. The first side is through bully prevention, and then the second side is through victim prevention. So bully prevention, we use education and luncheons and motivational speaking to be able to help people understand the perspectives of marginalized communities. When you better understand someone, you're less likely to judge them, to outcast them, to bully them. On the other side is we believe that when you are more socially connected, when you have an understanding of who you are, then you're less likely to become a victim. So somebody can try to bully you, but you will be less likely to succumb to it. And so we try to look at it from both angles, but both from a youth and from the adult side.
I love everything you just said there because you're absolutely right. Number one, I truly believe that hate is learned, you know?
Yes.
No one comes into this world and the first word they say is, I hate you, you know?
Yes. We are prone to love. We are a social being. And so our instinct is to connect with others. But when we're taught that others are, not safe or different or what have you, then that's where those fears come in. And that's where that separation that's outside of the natural selection, the natural intention comes.
Exactly. And you're right too, that bullying isn't just grade school. It isn't just school. It's not just grade school through high school. It could be everywhere. Bullying could be your next door neighbor. Bullying could be walking down the street one day and someone, starts just randomly picking on you for no reason. Bullying could literally be any place, anytime.
Mm-hmm. I have an example of literally what you just said, if you'd like for me to share.
Ahead. Absolutely.
So I live in a fairly small neighborhood. We have a little bit of walking traffic, but not a whole lot. One of my absolute best friends lives down the street. So sometimes I'll walk down there to see her. She'll walk down here to see me. And I was walking down the street, and I'm sure your audience knows I have achondroplasia dwarfism. So I'm 4 foot tall, and I'm walking. I get out of my house. I'm getting on the little sidewalk in front of my house, and I hear these young adults, and one of them is saying, "Look at the midget! Look at the midget!" And I just looked at them and I said, I'm not a midget. I didn't get hostile. I didn't get ugly, but I also wasn't going to stand there in front of my own home and allow somebody to say that. And so I said, I'm not a midget. and her response was, I wasn't talking to you. And so I was like, well, then who the bleep were you talking to? It kind of just came out, right? Yeah. But then instead of apologizing, instead of owning it, she got aggressive and
denied it. Was just I wasn't doing kind of got hostile.
And then I don't know who you're talking to. I'm gonna, threatening me, honestly. And luckily, they moved on and nothing came of it. But I was just like, dang, like we really can't avoid it. Like even in front of our own house, like just literally,
Bingo.
I was literally in front of my own house.
I've got an example. Yeah, I've got an example for you. I'm a little person as well. I have hypochondroplasia.
Mm-hmm.
One day I was walking into church with my mom. I stepped aside to hold the door for her like a gentleman. And as I was opening the door, someone drove by on a nearby street and yelled, "Effing midget!" right in front of my mother. Right in front of, in front of my mother, in front of a church. There could not have been a worse case scenario for that, like.
Yeah, people just don't think.
And it caught my mother's attention. Like, she immediately turned around and just went like, "What did he just say?" And I just turned around and said, "You heard him," and walked in. But like you, instead of causing the scene, I'm a man of faith, so if you don't mind me getting faithful here for a second. Sure. I just, I could have gone in that church and just been like, "Why me? What did I do today to deserve that? Like, what did I, Instead, I just walked in and said, whatever caused that man to say that, whatever pain is going on in his life, please heal him and please just help him to be kind, So.
I love that you said that, because I feel like, with the society, when we take the angle of preventing bullying, but also preventing victimhood, I feel like there's such a common root in both of those scenarios. Bullies are not happy people. They're not people that, are living lives that are fulfilling to them in whatever, for whatever reason, whatever way. And then victims also tend to be, not exactly happy people. They tend to have struggles or what have you. And so it's both hurt people, and one has chosen to lash out and hurt other people because of their hurt. One has chosen to receive those pains a little more. And it sounds like from your example, you sort of chose to say, I'm not receiving that. I'm not going to own it. I'm not going to accept it. And that's a key part of like anti-victimhood. We can't always control or make people be nice, but if we're able to help more people be nice, and then help more people understand that those words don't matter, and yes, words hurt, don't get me wrong, but when you have a solid foundation within who you are, you're less likely to be a victim of things like that. I was at a gas station one time years ago, and somebody drove by and screamed "Oompa Loompa," and that really, that was one of the first times that something like that happened to me. And that really was like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, why would you do that?
And you're absolutely right. I'm not trying to compare stories like, but there was a time I literally went to a McDonald's, went to the drive-thru, was just getting a meal for me. It was after work, and the cashier took my money. And then I happened to just look in the window real quick, and I saw her pull someone over real quick. Like I saw her pull someone over and kind of as in "Hey, look at this. Yeah, check that out."
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? At a McDonald's? Yeah. I'm just trying to get my food, for crying out loud,
Right.
So
right.
It can happen anytime, any place, anywhere, to anybody.
It can. I think it's important, though, that we have a sense of self, so that when things like that happen, because they're going to happen, they're going to happen. But when they do, you're able to look at that person and say, what is wrong with you? Instead of what's wrong with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So could you give us a time that, the society provided a service or something that really made an impact on an individual?
So we're a very, very new organization. And so I honestly don't know that we've had an incredibly huge impact as the society just yet. We have done so what we have done so far is we have done lunch and learns, where we talk about different topics that are relevant to marginalized groups. Most recently was the best one that I have felt so far was how to be a good ally for LGBTQ. Now, my goal was to have people come that were, now I live in Mississippi.
Mhm.
And I live on the coast, so it's a little different, but it's still Mississippi. It's still the South. And so my hope was that there would be people that would come that maybe were wanting to be an ally, but didn't really know how to. But really, most of the people that came were already kind of allies. But we were able then to just kind of have an open conversation about how can we as allies help, move the progress forward on the coast and so on and so forth. Our goal is to just really help educate and help people understand marginalized groups. With my podcast, A Little Perspective, we say that once you better understand the human behind the label, you'll be less likely to judge. And then we also are looking to help to unite and create a network. So nonprofit work is tough. And it often feels like we're kind of doing this work in like silos individually. And so my hope, the reason that I created the society as a foundation and not a service organization is because I want to actually just create a network for these nonprofits that are already doing the work in the various marginalized groups. Disability obviously being a big one, but also any group. The thing about bullying is that there's no safe group. You can be bullied in any form or fashion. You don't have to be poor, you don't have to be a minority or what have you. So that's really our goal with the society. And I think so far the biggest impact, I enjoyed the latest Lunch and Learn, the most of the luncheons that we've had so far. But in October we have Hear Me Roar, which is an event showcasing 10 women who are non-traditionally beautiful. Beauty standards are another way that bullying happens. And so things like having alopecia or having vitiligo or having dwarfism can really affect your confidence level, which again can make you more susceptible to being a victim. And through this project, we've picked 10 women and they are each photographed and then will be painted. And then we have a gallery showing in October of all of these. And the feedback that I've gotten from all of the participants so far has just been incredible. They felt so empowered, so beautiful, just in the photographs. They haven't even seen them. That's the best part, because so they'll see them at the reveal. And so I'm really anxious and excited to see how they feel after they really are able to share their story and then see themselves through another's lens. So we have a world-class photographer, Don Gilmore, who's been taking the photos. And then we have an amazing painter, Andrew Switzer, who's going to be painting them as well. And so sometimes when you're able to step back and see how somebody else sees you, it can be really empowering. So that is my most exciting thing so far for the society.
Wonderful. You mentioned your monthly DEIB Lunch and Learns. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So DEIB just stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And really, it's just the core tenets to creating a unity. Now, I'm in the South, and so when I talk about DEIB, I love to use gumbo as a analogy, but really any kind of stew, any kind of soup could be used. And the gist of my analogy is that while most of the time something like shrimp is going to be more valued than chicken or onion or flour, when you look at a complex soup or stew, each element is just as important as the last. You may only use a teaspoon of salt, But you leave that salt out, and boy, let me know, you're going to miss it. You will. And, the same with, the rice and the shrimp and the celery, even with gumbo. So I like to align. I love analogies. I just do. My brain loves analogies. And so I love to talk about how DEIB is about creating the great gumbo for whatever it may be, whether it's your employment situation, your business, your work, or an organization, or even your friendships, because when you don't have a variety of perspectives, a variety of experiences, of opportunities, then you really do miss out on so much, on the flavor of life. And so each month we've done a different lunch and learn. We've talked about how to be a good ally for LGBTQ. We've talked about the value of healthcare, as far as the ways that clinics help offset costs for everyone. We've talked about the value that veterans bring to the table, and how we need to be able to better support them. Sometimes we don't think of them as minorities, but they go through a lot, and then we kind of just leave them out to dry. And so it's really about making sure everybody has a place at the table, which to me, that's what DEIB is. To me, if I had to sum it up, DEIB is just making sure everybody has a voice at the table, and then being able to really just dig into what some of the issues are, specific to different groups, different categories or demographics, can make a big difference, because then you can better understand where they're coming from, why they do what they do, or whatever it may be. And then you're less likely to judge. You're less likely to make assumptions, stereotypes, etc.
Number one, in a joking sense, I have got to stop doing these podcasts before dinners and lunches, because now I have gumbo on my mind. But number two, you're absolutely right. Everyone plays an important role in, no matter what you are, even in company, like even in businesses.
Yes.
Everyone, there's that saying, I treat the janitor the same way I treat the CEO.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for the janitor, you'd come in, your office would be just garbage. It would be messy. It would be everything. But at the same time, you need that janitor. You need everything, So you are absolutely right. And I love how you get down to the core of it. Okay, what's the main problems here? Like it's not just what society's saying, but what are you personally dealing with? Like you're, involved in the LGBTQIA. What is the hardest thing you're dealing with now personally? Not just what society's telling you, but what you're personally. And it could be something, it could be something that everyone's been dealing with, like, oh, we're dealing with a lot of hate from religion or something. Or it could be something personal, like, it's hard for family members to accept who I am, things like that.
And my hope is that these luncheons are not just a safe space to be able to tell others' stories, tell the stories of marginalized groups, but also to be able to open up for conversation, for questions, for genuine want to learn and understand, because that's the key. If we don't get it, then we're going to continue to operate on what we assume, what we've been told, what we think. And if we feel afraid to inquire, then, we may never really fully get it. And so my hope with these lunches, and so far it's been great, that we can really start to just ask the kind of scary questions, and the questions that, you may not feel comfortable asking outside of a group like this that's specific to that.
Get down to the business. Get down to the brass tacks of it.
Yes.
So tell us about your mentorship program.
So currently we are working with one of the high school programs, and then a an existing mentorship program, or we're helping build a high school program. We're working with an existing mentorship program, and then we have a public speaker that we are working to bring into the schools as well. Because we don't necessarily, like I said, we created the foundation because we wanted to create more of a network and less of a one-on-one mentorship program, and so, or one-on-one service program. And so what we're doing right now is trying to identify how we can see what youth need, and then I can go into the community and find matching mentors for that. So, let's just say there's a quirky, artsy female that is she's obviously not making friends easily. She's struggling. The art teacher can reach out, or their teacher can reach out and say, hey, here's this young lady. These are her interests. Who do you think would be, do you have a good mentor for her? And then I can turn around and say, oh, yes, such and such would be great. Reach out to them and make that connection. I think that there are so many adults that are really willing to mentor, but you just don't know how. How do you begin? Where do you start? How do you let how do you let the school know that you're a safe person? You're not, just trying to get into the school because you're, a little bit shady. And so I'm excited to be able to bridge that gap and use my my networking on the coast, along with the networking within the schools, to be able to make some of those mentors this year for sure.
Love it. And now you yourself have a podcast as well.
I do. It's called A Little Perspective. It's not, it's on YouTube. It's not on audio yet because I'm lazy, and editing video is way easier than editing audio. I started out a few years ago when I wanted to elevate Dwarfism Awareness Month. So Dwarfism Awareness Month is in October, and we being the dwarfism community tend to post facts and information and kind of just inform people. And I was like, well, I want to do something a little more, because I felt like it was in a sense trivializing who we were. And because there's things where we are just like everybody else, but obviously there are things where we're very different. And I feel like just kind of pointing out the differences made it feel we don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. No. We just want accommodations. We want equal rights. We want equity. So I started it then, and then it just kept going. And now I have an amazing co-host, Sam Yukta, and we focus on marginalized communities. We our slogan is a conversation about accommodation. And so we tend to just talk about the ways that we can make the world better for everyone. The smallest things can make the biggest difference for people with disabilities, people who are marginalized, people who, are outside of the norm or the average. And so we've been able to talk to a variety of people about different things that they've gone through and how they've overcome.
I love it. And you're absolutely right. I feel that way with dwarfism awareness. It should be more than just facts and figures. And that's what I'm trying to accommodate, throughout. I remember the first time I ever did Dwarfism Awareness Month, I just did it because of I think it was a media situation. I'm like, okay, time to speak out. And it got so much attention because so many people were messaging me, that was a powerful message. You should continue this throughout the month. So you're absolutely right. I love how that started for you. And we'll have to do a Buddycast in October about this.
Yes. Maybe you can come on A Little Perspective.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yay!
I'd absolutely love to. Whenever you're ready.
I love it. it.
You also have this program called the Neighborhood Donation Program. Could you talk about that? Or was that you? Oh, my apologies.
No, it's fine.
My bad. Buddycast error. Whoop.
Maybe the neighborhood?
Yes, the neighborhood.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, you're good.
The neighborhood is simply supporters of the society.
That's
Um,
okay.
is so the society, the idea started is such a strange start, but it started with the thought of having a potluck dinner party where different people, because we as humans tend to click together. It's
Mhm.
just, it's natural, it's safety, it's evolution, it just is. And so I was having this conversation with a friend, and it started with this idea of having a potluck dinner party that pulled different people from different groups to just have like real honest conversations. Often as a professional, when we go to things, we tend to bring a representative. We tend to be the person that we're supposed to be. And the idea was that it was scandalous to just be real and raw and unapologetic, especially in the South sometimes. And so we originally called it the Scandalous Potluck Society. That did not test well, and so we created that as a segment under the society. And so then the society went from being just this one thing to an umbrella with multiple things under it. And with the luncheons, we do have the dinner parties, and with those things, I wanted to keep them affordable to encourage access, to make it an easy yes. Because again, it's not just about us like talking to people. It's also about allowing feedback, allowing questions, allowing opportunity for conversation. And so the neighborhood is just the supporters, the advocates, the ones who are going to help grow the society. And so we have a little Facebook group, and so that's the neighborhood. So my apologies, I'm sorry,
No,
that
no, no,
caught me
no.
off
I
guard.
think I got donation from the potluck part. That's what I got it from. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So, okay. I'll put it perfect. Phew. Glad I didn't botch that.
No, that was on me.
Yeah. No, no, it's all good. So you mentioned it earlier about a personal experience you've gone to. What about a personal experience where you've overcome bullying, where you've, really risen up, like you've taken a situation like a lemon that was thrown at you and turned it into lemonade?
Whew, that's good. In all honesty, oddly enough, as it may sound, the situation I relayed about being in front of my house,
Mm-hmm.
that me like saying like, okay, well then where are you talking to then? Like that's not something Ange 6 years ago would have done.
Mm-hmm.
I would have just like let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even though there was a moment where my adrenaline spiked because I didn't really know what was going to happen because she got aggressive, I still felt proud of myself for standing up. Having kids has also helped that because I'm obviously going to be very quick to defend them. So when I see something like that happening with them, or somebody taking a picture, there was a time where I was at the grocery store, which thank God for Walmart delivery because I don't have to go inside the store as much. But we were in the store and I saw this guy like take a picture of us, and his butt didn't have the sound off. And so when he took the picture, I could literally hear it go off. And so, yeah. And so I was like, did you just take a picture of us? And he was like, no. And I was like, you just took a picture of us. Give me your phone. And he was like, I'm deleting it. Here, I deleted it. Here, you can see. And he like showed me his phone. Like he was busted. And, so I think that having kids for sure has empowered me in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I being a young Southern woman, I've been taught to let things go, to forgive and forget, and don't start trouble and all that kind of stuff. And I really have said, I'm a troublemaker. I am, and I'm happy to be so. Yeah. So I think anytime that, and then oddly enough, it's easier for me to stand up for other people than myself. And so even outside of my kids, like having marginalized friends who may have a situation happen, I'm much more quick to no, you're not going to do that, whereas with me, I may let things go just a little bit, just to not. Yeah, it's also exhausting.
Exactly. Number one, you have to cause a little trouble in order to take a stand. Because if you're, like you said, if you're just going to be that person, I'll just let it go, just let it be, it is what it is, stuff like that. What's going to happen when there's a kid, there's a little kid over there who can't take it as easy as you, What's going to happen to that? Like things like that. Like I said, because I've been in those situations where you have. I've been in the case, like the McDonald's story. I could easily just said, just don't let it bother you. They're just, she's just a whatever. Blah, blah. I came home and I first texted my mom about it. I'm like, hey, this just happened. Or my mom actually called me on my way home and I'm like, I just had a weird encounter at that McDonald's. And she's like, really? And then I came home and told my fiance about it. And something just snapped in my fiance. I don't know what to this day, but something just snapped in her and she went, oh, heck no. He called that McDonald's and was like, hey, I just wanted to let you guys know about a situation with one of your employees. My fiance was just in the drive-thru, picking up food for us and and the manager stopped her and said, is he a little person? Yes. Yeah, his mom called about 5 minutes ago. So don't worry, we're handling it,
You gotta love it. But I think both of those, your mom and your fiance, are the perfect example of how it's easier for us to stand up for others than it is for us to stand up for ourselves. We get really real mad. We get real mad.
I've had plenty of situations where I've heard of a situation, like me, I've had my fair share of bullying, but I've heard of someone else get bullied. Like I heard one time about a little kid who at a young age, at first grade or kindergarten, was getting the M word already. And I'm like, he's getting it at that age? Like that young? So I just took a stand. I'm like, you know what? That's not happening in my book, or there was that situation. I don't know if you remember this case, the Zach Brown band situation.
Yeah.
Like there was that situation. And that's what caused my first initial dwarfism awareness post. I'm like, you may think this is all fun and games to you. Like this is kind of funny, or like this is just something, it's just another piece of news. To us, that could be something detrimental. Like there was a little person in the audience that night and, let's put in some factors here. Let's throw in alcohol. If alcohol can give you the illusion that you can drive home tonight when you can't even see straight, what's making them do that? Who's to say someone gets that idea in their head? Like, hey, I saw this on stage. You want to wrestle? You want to fight or something like that?
Yeah.
And this personally, like, you mentioned it earlier. You're 4 foot. I'm like 4'7". Let's do some physics here. Someone 6 foot comes up to you, picks you up, they're intoxicated, picks you up and loses their grip or something. The fall to the ground isn't just going to be like a feather, like, hey, it's going to be a straight shot down. And that could be painful to us. So,
especially for us, because we have such skeletal issues. And so,
exactly. My fiance has had major back surgery and at one point had over 70 staples in her back.
Gosh, yeah.
So we're always cautious. We're always, it's those simple things that people don't think about. And just they just think they see someone walking down the street and think they're funny, or
yeah.
Hey, I saw this in a TV show once. Have you had people ask you about something they saw in a movie or a television show or something like that?
People think that I'm somebody on one of the shows. I don't know who they like. I have had
of LA or something like that. Like
one of those little women shows. Yeah, like I've had multiple, like too many to count, like actual arguments where I should have ended the conversation and just walked away. Where people were like, "You're that lady," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." And they're like, "Yes, you are," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." And then my friend with me is like, "No, she's not. And they're like, yes, you are. You are. That's you are. And I don't know. I don't get it.
I could honestly write a book on all the like stereotypes and like all the questions we get on a daily basis. Like everyone think there are some people that out there that actually believe. I actually think that they believe all little people are related or something like that. Like,
or we know each other.
Yeah. If you know Peter Dinklage, like I'm like, if I knew Peter Dinklage, do you think I would be here right now? Like, do you think I would be talking with you right now or something? You know,
right?
Like things like that. Like I did a little stand-up comedy and I did that bit. Like I did a bit like here's some frequently asked questions that little people get on a daily basis, and here are my responses. Like number one, are all little people related? My response: are all tall people this stupid? Like you know, like just those questions, you know. So, but where can we learn more about the society? By the way.
So our Facebook page is probably the best place. The Society and Anti-Bullying Foundation. It is also housed on my website, which is purposebyang.com. And so there's some information there as well. But our Facebook page is going to be the best way to keep up with that.
Wonderful. I also see you offer a coaching service, or your name's Coach Ant.
Yeah, so I am a life coach for women. I help women over 35 make themselves a priority again. I tend to help business owners learn how to market and promote their business while also growing themselves personally and professionally. And so, pardon me, I really enjoy it. It's absolutely my passion. I work exclusively with business owning women over 35, anywhere in the world because it's virtual. But we have a strategic plan to go through the 5 areas of wellness and to really help keep women on track. And also they tend to be ADHD just a little bit, just like me, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what that looks like and how you manage it. And once you better understand yourself again, then you are going to be able to be your best self.
The number one misconception: squirrel.
Ooh, yeah, but also sometimes it's true.
Oh, it's 100%. I have ADHD, and I'm like that exact way. Like I'll be talking to you, and then something will drop by, and I'll be like, "What in the world is that?" Or you know, or I'll hear the dog like scratching himself, and I'll be like, "Hey," you know. And
yeah.
Like, wait a minute, what was I talking about? Oh yeah.
The train just completely leaves the station.
Yes. So, buddy, I've got 2 questions left to ask you to make this an official Buddycast. First off, please know that you're a buddy, not a guest on this show. The first question I have is brought to us by my buddy Jonas Kane at #Positivity. He wants to know, in your own words, what does it mean to be someone's buddy?
To see them. I think that to make someone feel seen, even if you don't have to understand every bit of nuance about someone, to just simply be there for them, understand that they need a friend, and be willing to be whatever that looks like. And so I think that is the biggest part of being a buddy, is just really empathy. I think if one word, empathy, caring and empathy.
Mm-hmm. You reminded me, and I say it a lot on this show, but one of my favorite quotes is from C.S. Lewis. True friendship is born when one friend says to another, "Wait, you too? I thought I was the only one."
It's so true. That just gave me goosebumps. I love that quote. That's a good one. It is. It really is.
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite sayings. Like, because how many times have you met someone like you and me are meeting for the first time in person? You know,
yeah,
we've met virtual, like we've met, you know, we've talked online and stuff like that, but we're meeting for the first time personally, and I feel like literally, I have a new buddy now.
Yeah. I think when we are able to allow ourselves the opportunity, we all have so much more in common than we don't.
Mhm.
We really are so much more alike than we tend to want to believe for some reason. I know that everybody wants to feel like an individual, but our root, our core is that we're social beings and we need to feel like that.
Exactly. The final question I have for you tonight is what we call the ultimate Buddycast buddy question. You ready for this one?
I am.
For any bully victim out there that's watching this episode, watching the rerun, listening to our audio platforms, what is your advice to them?
If anyone is feeling like a victim, my advice is to heal whatever it is that victimhood is touching, because victimhood doesn't happen to people who know who they are, who are confident in who they are, who have a friend support network, because bullying is believing the story that somebody else is telling you. And you being able to walk into that church after, somebody drove by and said something so awful and not allow it to ruin your whole experience that day is because you knew those things weren't true. Now, it still hurts and it still
Oh,
sucks.
absolutely.
But when you don't allow it to get to who you are, then you don't let them win. Now, it's easier said than done. It depends on the person. Sometimes people need some healing. They need whether that looks like counseling or finding a network of friends. But my advice would be to not let it just happen, to dig into it, lean into it, figure out what's going on. If this is affecting you in such a way that you are feeling bullied, what can you do to work on it? Sometimes it's boundaries. Sometimes it's, just assuring yourself that no, I am not that. That is not me. I am amazing. There's a million different ways, but my advice would be to not allow it to tell you who you are. You know who you are, and if you don't, then that's where you need to start, is to figure out who you are. Because when you allow somebody else to tell you who you are, then that's when it's really an issue.
You nailed it on the head right there. Be who you are. Don't worry about what society tells you to be.
Yes.
Be who you are. Because there's only one you in this world. Even if you're a twin, there's only one you.
Literally. Even if you're an identical twin, like just you're still different, like you are.
And I lied. I have one more question for you. Anyone out there who wants to be a life coach, what's your advice to them?
Okay. So, do it, obviously, if you feel like that's your calling, then go for it. It's not a regulated field at this time. I have a certification in it, and then I have a bachelor's from Tulane in wellness coaching. And so I think credentials matter. I do, but I also think it's my gift. It's something I'm just able to do, have always been able to do. I think it's part of my experience in life that I'm a safe place for people to land. I think that life coaching is probably going to be one of the fastest growing fields from moving forward from now on, because the mental wellness is such a focus and therapy is so out of reach for so many people. And also it's two very different things. Like for me, therapy is reflecting on more of the past traumas and healing those kinds of things, whereas life coaching is really taking intentional steps on how to move forward. And so if somebody's interested in being a life coach, I would tell them to go for it. But I would encourage them to get some genuine credentials behind them, because we're kind of at this point where anybody can call themselves a life coach, and
that.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're qualified. They may have the intention to, but like there's there's things that you need to know how to do. But I would never want to damper somebody's, dream or ideas of what they can do. Just make sure that you're not doing it because it's easy, because it's not. It's not. These are people's lives that you're responsible for in a lot of ways. And so just really being mindful of that aspect of it. But honestly, go for it, because it's needed. I think everybody should have a life coach. I do, or a therapist, one or the other, or both. I've had clients that are seeing a therapist and seeing me, and then it works out really well for them. And so that would be my advice.
Love it. Well, Buddy, thank you so much for being on Buddycast. Thank you for all your wisdom. Thank you for all your input. And thank you for being a buddy.
Thank you. This was awesome. I can't believe it's already been 45 minutes. It feels like it's been 10. This is amazing.
I know. That's the beauty of Buddycast.
Yes.
Just conversation. Yes. And what, before you know it, where's the time gone?
Yes. I love it. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Angela, I have a favor to ask you before we close out this episode.
Yeah.
Whatever you do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, even next year, please promise me you're going to go out and be someone's buddy.
Always. I can't help but.
Awesome. All my buddies out there, this is my buddy Angela. Please check out her website. Please don't be a bully. Be a buddy. Everyone needs a buddy nowadays. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us on another episode of everybody's favorite show.
Well, the days are going fast, buddy, we've got to make them last, buddy, before they've all gone past.